People often imagine disappearance as something dramatic, a struggle, a moment that announces itself. But most real disappearances are quieter than that. They begin with small absences that feel explainable. A missed call, a routine that breaks once. There is no clear moment when someone becomes missing. Only the moment when someone realizes they are no longer being observed. That gap matters. Because when no one witnesses the exact moment someone vanishes, the timeline collapses. Minutes stretch. Certainty fades. The people in this story did not vanish in isolation. They moved through ordinary places, surrounded by systems meant to record presence. And still, no one saw the moment they disappeared. This is not a story about answers. It is a story about absence, about what happens when a moment passes unseen. The first disappearance does not begin with silence. It begins with sound. On the night he vanished, Brandon Swanson was not alone in the way people usually imagine. He was talking. He was answering questions. He was being heard in real time. After leaving a graduation party in rural Minnesota, Brandon's car slid into a ditch along a gravel road. The vehicle was damaged, but not severely. He was not injured. He did what most people would do. He called his parents. From the beginning of the call, Brandon believed he knew where he was. He told them he had crashed near a familiar town. He was confident enough to think he could simply walk back. What he didn't realize was that he was wrong about his location. For 47 minutes, Brandon stayed on the phone with his parents. They asked him to remain where he was. He didn't. They asked him to describe his surroundings. He tried. His voice was calm, not panicked, not distressed. He sounded tired, embarrassed, frustrated by the inconvenience of the situation. As he walked, his parents could hear changes in his footing. Gravel, grass, uneven ground. At different points, Brandon mentioned passing fences. He mentioned water. He mentioned hearing running streams. Each detail should have narrowed his location. Instead, it widened the uncertainty. His parents got into their car and began driving toward where they believed he was. They stayed on the phone the entire time. At moments, they thought they could hear Brandon's voice in the distance, as if he were nearby, as if they were almost close enough. But they never saw him. The call continued without interruption. No static, no drop signal, just movement. Brandon kept walking. Then, without warning, he said 2 words. "Oh, shit." After that, there was nothing. The line did not disconnect. It did not cut out. It went silent. His parents called back immediately. The call went to voicemail. They tried again and again. Nothing. By the time they reached the area they believed Brandon had been walking through, there was no sign of him. No response to shouting. No movement in the dark. Search teams were deployed quickly. The area was combed repeatedly. Fields were searched. Ditches were checked. Rivers and creeks were examined. Dogs were brought in. Volunteers walked grid patterns. Nothing was found. No phone, no clothing, no body. The place where Brandon disappeared could not be fixed to a point, only estimated. Investigators believe he may have fallen into a river or wandered into terrain that concealed him, but belief is not evidence. What makes this case different is not that Brandon vanished in a remote area. It is that he vanished while actively present. He did not go missing hours after last contact. He did not disappear between days. He vanished mid-conversation. There is no witness to what happened after his last words, but there is also no witness to what caused them. No sound of impact, no cry for help, just silence. The phrase, "oh shit," is not an explanation. It is a reaction, a response to something unexpected. But reactions do not tell us what occurred, only that it happened suddenly. Search efforts continued for years. Nothing surfaced. No physical trace ever emerged to confirm what happened in the final moments of that call. Brandon's parents replayed the timeline endlessly. Every word, every pause, trying to locate meaning in sound alone. But sound without sight cannot anchor reality. The call provides presence. It does not provide location. There is no confirmed moment where anyone can say, "This is where he was last seen," because no one saw him. They only heard him. And once the sound stopped, Brandon Swanson exited the observable world. The land where he vanished did not change. There were no signs of disturbance. Nothing marked the moment someone disappeared there. That is what makes this case endure. Not the mystery of where he went, but the fact that he was present, communicating, and then gone without transition. In most missing cases, silence comes first, then concern. Here, silence came last, and it erased everything that came before it. There is no final image, no final sighting, only a voice that stops mid-step, and a moment no one could see. That is where Brandon Swanson disappeared. Not into darkness, not into distance, but into a gap between sound and sight, a place where no witness could follow. And once he entered it, there was nothing left to trace. The second disappearance does not end in silence. It ends in noise so overwhelming that it erases detail. On September 11, 2001, the world watched New York City collapse in real time. Images repeated endlessly. Sound overwhelmed sense. And inside that noise, one person vanished without a witness. Her name was Sneha Philip. Before that day, Sneha existed clearly in the world. She was a doctor. She was married. She lived in Manhattan. She had routines, relationships, a life that intersected daily with systems designed to record presence. On the evening of September 10, Sneha was seen shopping near the World Trade Center. Store employees remembered her. Receipts later confirmed her purchases. There was nothing unusual about the evening. Security records show that she returned to her apartment building later that night. After that, the timeline fractures. When the attacks began the following morning, Sneha did not answer her phone. She did not report to work. She did not contact anyone. At first, this absence did not stand out. Thousands of people were unaccounted for. Records were incomplete. Communication systems were overwhelmed. But as days passed, something became increasingly clear. There was no confirmed evidence that Sneha had entered either tower. No security footage placed her inside. No eyewitness remembered seeing her that morning. There was also no evidence that she had left the city. Her apartment showed no signs of preparation, no packed bags, no note. Her credit cards were not used. Her phone showed no activity. She had simply stopped intersecting with the systems that record movement. Investigators were left with a question that could not be cleanly answered. If Sneha disappeared before the attacks, then she vanished in one of the most populated cities in the world, surrounded by people, without a witness. If she disappeared during the attacks, then the largest mass casualty event in modern history still failed to record her final moment. In both scenarios, observation failed. Search efforts expanded. Hospitals were checked. Shelters were searched. Lists of survivors and victims were reviewed repeatedly. Her name did not appear. Over time, the investigation reached a standstill. There was no body to identify, no confirmed location to examine, no moment to reconstruct. Years later, a decision was made. Sneha Philip was officially declared a victim of the September 11 attacks. This was not because evidence proved she died in the towers. It was because no alternative explanation could be confirmed. The declaration closed the case administratively. It did not resolve it. Sneha's disappearance is disturbing not because of what might have happened to her, but because of where her case now exists. It lives inside history. Once her name was folded into the event, the need to isolate her final movements faded. The scale of the tragedy absorbed the uncertainty. Questions that would demand precise answers on any other day became unaskable. Where was she when the morning began? Why did no one see her? When did she disappear? There is no final image of Sneha Philip, no last confirmed step. She does not vanish at a doorway or a street corner. She vanishes into a day A day so large it erased individual observation. If she disappeared before the attacks, no one saw her go. If she disappeared during them, no one can separate her moment from the chaos. Either way, the moment that mattered most was never observed. Sneha Philip did not disappear in isolation. She disappeared inside an event that overwhelmed attention itself. The noise was too great, the scale too vast. And when everything is being watched at once, individual moments are often missed. Her case endures not because it is mysterious, but because it is suspended. No witness ever stepped forward to say, "I saw her here." No moment was anchored in time. Only absence, folded neatly into history, where it can exist without resolution. Sneha Philip vanished without a witness, not because no one was nearby, but because the world was watching something else. The third disappearance does not begin with fear. It begins with intention. On the morning he vanished, Andrew Gosden did not appear distressed. He did not appear hurried. Nothing about his behavior suggested panic. He woke up, got dressed, and left his home as he normally would. His parents believed he was going to school. Instead, Andrew walked to the train station. He did not tell anyone he was leaving. He did not take much with him. At the station, he bought a one-way ticket to London. He did not buy a return. He did not hesitate. This single decision would later be examined repeatedly. At the time, it passed unnoticed. CCTV footage shows Andrew arriving in London later that day. He exits the station alone. He is not running. He is not being followed. He looks calm, almost deliberate. This is the last confirmed image of him. Andrew did not carry a mobile phone. He did not have a bank card that could track his movement. There were no messages sent, no calls made, no digital trail to follow. London is one of the most surveilled cities in the world, and yet, after that moment, Andrew disappears completely. No verified sightings, no confirmed movements, no transactions. He entered a city of millions and left no trace of where he went next. What makes Andrew's case so unsettling is not simply that he vanished. It is that his actions suggest planning, without revealing a destination. He did not pack extra clothes. He did not leave a note. There were no signs of conflict at home, no reports of abuse, no indication that he was fleeing from danger. Investigators considered whether Andrew intended to meet someone, but no evidence supported that theory. They considered whether he planned to return the same day, but he chose not to buy a return ticket despite having the money. Every detail pointed toward purpose. None pointed toward direction. This absence of direction is the center of the case. People often assume that planning leaves tracks, that intention creates evidence. Andrew's intention, whatever it was, left none. No one witnessed him meeting anyone. No one witnessed him changing course. No one witnessed the moment he stopped being alone. The gap is immediate. The last sighting is arrival. After that, there is nothing. Years later, police reviewed thousands of hours of CCTV footage. Nothing conclusive emerged. Andrew did not disappear in a secluded place. He disappeared in public. That is what makes it harder to understand. He did not vanish into darkness or distance. He vanished into presence, into crowds, into streets filled with people who did not notice him. The question is not how someone could disappear unnoticed in a city. The question is how easily it can happen. People see what they expect to see. A boy walking alone does not demand attention. There is no alarm in that image. So the moment he disappears is not marked by action. It is marked by indifference. Andrew Gosden was seen arriving. He was not seen leaving. He does not cross a visible boundary. He simply stops intersecting with the record. No one saw the moment he vanished. No one saw him choose a direction. There is no final decision that can be isolated. Only a young person stepping into a city and never being observed again. That is where Andrew Gosden disappears. Not at the train station, not on a street corner, but in the space between arrival and notice. A place where presence is assumed and absence goes unseen. And once that moment passes, it cannot be recovered, because no one was watching when it mattered. The fourth disappearance begins with a contradiction. A child does something that should not happen, not because it is impossible, but because it goes against instinct. In the early hours of February 14, 2000, Asha Degree left her home in Shelby, North Carolina. She was 9 years old. It was the middle of the night. A storm was moving through the area. Rain fell steadily, and the wind reduced visibility. The power in the house had gone out earlier that evening. Everything about the environment discouraged movement. And yet, sometime after 2:30 a.m., Asha got dressed, gathered a few belongings, and walked out the front door. No one saw her leave. Inside the house, nothing appeared disturbed. There were no signs of panic, no forced entry, no note. Her parents believed she was asleep in her bed. By the time anyone realized she was gone, the moment had already passed. Later that morning, motorists traveling along Highway 18 reported something unusual. They saw a small figure walking alone along the road. A child. One driver turned around to check on her. When he approached, the figure ran into the darkness. Another driver reported seeing her shortly afterward, still walking south along the highway. These sightings are often described as witnesses, but they are not witnesses to a disappearance. They are fragments. No one saw where Asha came from. No one saw where she went. Each sighting exists independently, never overlapping. No one observed the transition. Search efforts began quickly. Teams combed the roadside. Dogs were brought in. Volunteers searched nearby woods. Nothing was found. No footprints leading away from the road. No clothing discarded nearby. It was as if Asha had been walking along the highway and then ceased to exist. Days turned into weeks, then years. The case shifted from immediate response to long-term investigation. What made Asha's disappearance so unsettling was not only her age, it was the behavior. Children do not typically leave home alone at night during a storm. They do not walk along highways without explanation. And yet, witnesses placed her there. Investigators examined every angle: family dynamics, school life, possible outside influences. Nothing explained the decision to leave or what happened afterward. Then, 18 months later, something surfaced. Asha's backpack was discovered buried in a wooded area miles away from her home. It had been wrapped carefully in plastic. The location did not align with the highway sightings. It did not sit along a natural walking path. It suggested transport. But transport by whom and when remained unknown. No one witnessed the moment Asha left the road. No one witnessed the moment she entered a vehicle or moved into the woods. There is no confirmed sighting that bridges those points. The backpack is evidence of presence. It is not evidence of transition. This gap is the core of the case. The sightings place Asha on the road. The backpack places her somewhere else. But the space between those two facts is unobserved. Time exists there. Movement exists there, but no witness does. Years later, people would revisit the highway sightings repeatedly, asking whether the drivers misjudged what they saw, whether the figure could have been someone else. But multiple reports, independent of one another, align. A child was there, she was seen, and then she was not. What followed the sightings is where the disappearance occurs, not in the house, not on the road, but after. After the last pair of headlights passed, after the last glance. Asha Degree did not vanish in secrecy. She vanished in intervals, seen, unseen, seen again, and then nothing. The moment that mattered most fell between witnesses. No one saw the final step off the road. No one saw her change direction. And because of that, every explanation fractures. If she left willingly, no one saw why. If someone intervened, no one saw when. The absence of observation turns every theory into speculation. Asha's case endures because it resists narrative. It does not resolve into a single act. It dissolves. A child leaves home. A child is seen walking. A backpack is found elsewhere. and the space that connects those facts remains empty. That emptiness is not an oversight. It is the defining feature. Because when no one witnesses the moment a child disappears, the world loses the ability to say what happened at all. Asha Degree did not vanish where someone was watching. She vanished between glances, between passing cars, between moments no one thought to hold. And once that space closed behind her, it never reopened. No witness ever stepped forward to complete the picture. Only fragments remained. And in those fragments, her disappearance continues, unresolved, unobserved, and untouched by certainty. The fifth disappearance is measured in minutes, not days, not hours. Minutes where certainty collapses into absence. In February 2004, Maura Murray was driving through a rural area of New Hampshire. She was alone. Earlier that day, Maura had emailed her professors, packed belongings into her car, and withdrawn cash. None of it appeared urgent. None of it suggested an emergency. That evening, her car left the road and struck a snowbank on a quiet stretch near Woodsville. The crash was not severe. Airbags did not deploy. The car was damaged but functional. A nearby resident heard the impact and stepped outside. Maura was standing near the vehicle. She did not appear injured. She did not ask for medical help. The resident offered to call the police. Maura declined. She said she had already contacted roadside assistance. The interaction lasted only a few minutes. It is one of the last confirmed moments of her presence. Afterward, the resident returned inside and called the police anyway. When officers arrived, within minutes, Maura was gone. Her car remained. Her belongings remained. She did not. There were no clear footprints leading away from the scene. Snow covered the ground, but nothing pointed decisively in any direction. No one reported seeing her walk away. No one reported picking her up. The window between the last confirmed sighting and police arrival was narrow. This is what defines the case. Maura did not disappear after hours alone. She vanished between witnesses. One person saw her before, another arrived after. No one saw the moment in between. Search efforts began immediately. Dogs were brought in. The surrounding area was searched repeatedly. Some believe Maura may have entered the woods. Others believe she may have accepted a ride. Both possibilities require movement, a moment no one witnessed. There is no confirmed sighting of Maura walking away from the crash. No confirmed sighting of her entering another vehicle. The road was quiet, but not isolated. Houses were nearby. Traffic passed intermittently. Yet the precise moment she left that location went unobserved. Every explanation begins after that gap. If she fled to avoid police, no one saw her do it. If she accepted help, no one saw her enter the car. If she became disoriented, no one saw her move into danger. Each theory depends on a moment that does not exist in the record. That absence is the center of the case. What makes Maura Murray's disappearance endure is not its complexity, it is its brevity. She is present, she speaks, she stands by her car, then she is gone. The environment does not explain it. The timeline does not explain it. Only the absence does. Maura Murray did not vanish in a place no one could reach. She vanished in a place people lived, between a conversation and the arrival of police, between observation and assumption. No one saw her take the final step away from that road, and because no one did, her disappearance cannot be fixed in space. It floats, somewhere between the car and whatever came next. This is what unites all 5 cases. Not mystery, not coincidence, but the failure of observation at the critical moment. Maura Murray did not disappear loudly. She disappeared quietly, in a moment when no one was watching. When people vanish without witnesses, what disappears is not only the person, it is certainty. In each of these cases, the world did not stop. Traffic continued. Lights stayed on. Conversations moved forward. Nothing marked the moment someone stopped being present. That is what makes these disappearances endure. They do not offer a final image to return to. No scene that explains itself. Only gaps. places where something should exist, but doesn't. We often believe that being seen is a form of safety, that attention protects us. But these cases suggest something quieter and more unsettling. You can move through ordinary places, surrounded by people and systems designed to record movement, and still leave without a trace. A phone call can end. A camera can miss a second. A passerby can look away. And in that space, a person can disappear. Not violently, not dramatically, simply without being observed. These 5 cases are not connected by cause or outcome. They are connected by absence. 5 lives that intersected briefly with attention and then slipped between it. When no one witnesses the moment of departure, explanation loses its footing. What remains is not a mystery waiting to be solved, but a silence that continues to exist. Because disappearance does not always require distance or intent. Sometimes it requires only a moment when no one is watching.